So, what was so interesting, I try to remember sometimes how I first get introduced to shows and concepts, and clicking out of that. When looking at this trailer here, I try to remember what I felt the first time, and I think what must have been going through my mind, I think I actually saw the first episode before I saw this. And what went through my mind, very strangely, I think the first thing I saw was the thumbnail. I thought to myself, okay, well, Rooster's trying some weird, like, chic lady show, I guess? I don't know. I was dumb at the time. It was 2013. I was younger. I thought to myself, very weirdly, that was going to be, like, some fashion, like, slice of life show or some, like, daily comedy adventure show. But no. I saw her pull out that giant-ass scythe and rip a motherfucking half. So it was, I don't know, it was amazing for me to go back and then see this after I'd seen the first episode. The first episode was intense enough to introduce you to a ridiculous action show. But then I found out that this existed, and my little 14-year-old self went just a little haywire for a bit. And I must have probably replayed this trailer and replayed the song. I'm not even, when I say 1,000 times, I'm actually might not be kidding, because I went back and I studied every single one of these small animations, every move that put in here, because for those who don't know, Manu animated at each one of these trailers by himself. I mean, anybody, right, knowledgeable of work, before this did fantasy will know that he was that intense. But this was next level. This was a passion project. I mean, this is where everything that he had worked on beforehand came together into just one brilliant display. And it was a fever dream at the start. And even looking at this, this very first trailer here, even though looking at some practices, the animation actually is probably better in the yellow trailer, this is already at such a high level. I mean, I continue to watch the show, and it's perfectly fine as well. But there was a certain flavor that it had with the Manu animation, with this amount of frenetic energy, that simply cannot be had without the rest of the soul. And probably another cherry on top of that was the Jeff Williams music that came along with this. Just the everything from the smash guitar solo at the beginning to the experimental orchestral stuff, it all binded together. And man, I'm trying to imagine what it must have been like for those people at that first RTX in, I want to say 2013, when they first saw that. Alright, well, I'm gonna switch over to the white trailer now. I'm gonna do all 4 of the trailers in one video, but I gotta switch over. I'll probably be doing editing bullshit in the trailer. You know what, actually, never mind. We can just wait for this to queue up. Unless a ad gets in the way, I'll probably cut that out. Now, when I was going through all these trailers, I was kind of being a contrarian, and I had to say to myself, okay, I want to say that the Red Scythe main character is my favorite in terms of trailers, but I don't want to say that because I want to be different. And so at the time, I would constantly say that Weiss was my favorite, the white trailer, that is, since we didn't know their names. But over time, yeah, it's actually, in a way, held up. While I'll say the yellow trailer is definitely the best, Weiss's powers were very consistently the most interesting to me throughout most of the series. Even now with summoning in Volume 4, I mean, she just seems to have the most unfairly balanced power. She could be her own team. I mean, think about it. She's got dust capacity, she's got long range ice attack, she's got elemental powers down pat. Now summoning. She is that all-around. They did say that in production of the show, along with Monium and a couple of the other writers, Shawcross and Luna, they thought to themselves, we kind of want to make the teams balanced like RPG characters, and I feel like Weiss is the best approximation of, what I'd say, the all-around caster type, which would be my RPG character. You know, can't have that bullshit wall paladin. Nobody likes that. Anyway, at throughout the show, though, I do have to say, it was always weird to me that she could summon these glyphs to stand on at any time, and she did not abuse that in, like, regular life. Like, I'd just be making staircases out of glyphs, I'd just be, like, doing hula hoops, I'd be jumping up and down, I'd be sitting on one in midair. I mean, you can construct, it's like Legos, you can construct anything you want. I mean, I assume there's an energy uptake, and there's a limit, but they don't establish it in the show, so, you know, could still be a thing. I also, yes, did play all this. I got the Volume 1 soundtrack. Gonna be honest, I illegally downloaded the first time. I did buy it, though. I did buy it, so, don't worry. That's actually the interesting thing about, pirating. Apparently, pirating music in a counterintuitive argument actually leads to higher video sales in this modern internet market affected by the low cost of iTunes. I mean, it in a very strange way it brings content to people who otherwise would never have been brought and, how can I say, exposed to the content, and gets them interested enough to buy from the seller. Okay, that's highly off topic to this trailer, but just saying. I want to ask, though, if anybody has ever thought that little pendant in Weiss's hair holding up her little ponytail knot thing ever kind of looked like the Statue of Liberty. I do want to pose that question, the Statue of Liberty, you know, and Weiss can just be holding one of Blake's little books. Oh, one thing I'll say, though, the characterization in trailers does seem a little jarring once you go out and actually watch the show, when they fall into their archetypes in the show. Like, if you watch the entire show, Volume 1 to 4, without seeing these trailers, it's actually, in a way, makes a little more sense to their characterization, because in these trailers, they're so intense in how can I say, in certain aspects. Like, they very prominently focus on a quiet, reserved part of Weiss Red, and at the outside of the show, she's instead very loud, borderline obnoxious to the viewer, and she's that character that you're supposed to hate at first, but then come to love. And I just always knew she had potential for that, so I always loved that. You know, she was my girl. How damn you, Jock, for bitch slapping her that last season. Okay, I also feel like a lot of people who watched the show and saw this trailer must have been like, oh yeah, Adam, that guy's fucking cool. I mean, riding shit. By the way, Metal Gear Rise and Revengeance, I mean, if you haven't seen that game or played that game in any aspect, highly recommend. Main character, for those who don't know, the main character has a look that kind of matches very exactly to Adam's, and actually a weapon that's very similar, but that's besides the point. Anyway, so this was the first kind of trailer where you see voice acting and know it's kind of a narrative. You start getting narrative plot, and it's also the first time that you start to get the techno and you understand the modern part of Remnant. And I actually really wish Volume 2 gave us enough of it, but it's just weird to me that Volume 3 and 4 on, they started to revert technology a bit, so as to go more fantasy. I don't have a problem with that. I just like to see a balance, and I love mixing techno with fantasy. It's a great thing when it works well. So one thing I'll say, I have always been so weirded out by Blake's power because it seems so meaningless put with the rest of the team. It seems like almost redundant to put another speed character, because Ruby's character has now been established to have a speed transformation power. So it's weird to have a girl whose skill is basically evasion. And now she can get explosions off the evasion and stuff like that, but I always thought if we're going with like shadow clones that she can evade with, why not use them to amplify their attacks in the same ire that they use to, how can I say, amplify the attacks of both Sun and later on, God, Team Funky member name, Coco. No. Okay, the trumpet guy from season 3. Sorry, can't remember his name at the moment. I'm kind of focused on the trailer. I always thought it at some point should work like that, and that should be the buff she gets over time. Oh, also, we all know that by now, spoiler alert, but the black bow there that's used to hide Blake's ears, her cat ears, I really thought just all along those were just cat ear. That was a cat ear bow, and I wondered, okay, why is she wearing fake cat ears on her head? But then I found out it was supposed to be a bow. It's like, okay. But then when it came and I found out there were cat ears under it, I was so mind fucked. Anyway, once again, I understand where theming and series is right now and why it wouldn't make sense. But here's the weird thing I had with the last season, that we didn't see the outside world while we were with Weiss in Atlas. I wanted to see this tech. I didn't mind if there was a fantasy element where RWBY was, and it was the technology reverted a bunch, but I wanted to see, like, this shit. Like, this Metal Gear mech shit. And I want to see it with trains and, like, modern tech, and I want to see it in Atlas. We've always been told that Atlas is the technologically advanced nation, and we see it in their military. That's great. We see it there. But we don't see, like, this! Like, this! We don't see this Samurai Champloo mixed in with Metal Gear, mixed in with some futuristic tech train heist Final Fantasy shit here. Like that, I want to see more of that. Also, speaking of weird change retcons and like characterization and stuff like that, I mean Blake's character here kind of matched it. I did get the impression that she was a little more sassy, and she kept the sassy, and she was introduced as very sassy, but in recent memories, she's been more of a reserved clan member, so I don't know. And I mean clan member, like, I'm not saying she's part of KKK, guys, that would have been messed up, but I'm talking, like, she's got that native groove going on ever since she went back home to Menagerie last season. So yeah, they made her kind of the royalty heir archetype, while Weiss was supposed to be the rich girl archetyped. But, you know, Jock had to go fuck that up. Alright, is it gonna queue up yellow? That'll be really, really convenient to queue up yellow. Oh, okay, that's perfect. Okay, so I say that this is definitely the best anime of all the trailers. And I think it helps that it's basically fist combat, because that's something where you'll see so much example of that, and I assume that I think he stated once that he would used to watch old martial arts movies by like Jackie Chan and Jet Li and all the greats, Bruce Lee, and see the frenetic motion there, and it's obvious that's where he can shine sometimes, because if you ever see Dead Fantasy and what he does with Tifa and all the Dead or Alive characters, I mean, that's where there are intricate animations throughout the thing, but the fist fights were usually the most frenetic and most complex, and so I think he naturally gravitated towards fist fight characters. Now, I didn't even talk about Fairy Tail, so that was a cute reference, and I love making this line whenever I watch this trailer with somebody who hasn't seen the series before. So, for those of you who don't know, it should be pretty obvious, but the 4 main girls are based off of old fairy tale princesses, right? And fairy tale characters. So, you got RWBY as Red Riding Hood, Weiss as Snow White, Blake Belladonna as Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and so you have Yang as Goldilocks. And as you know, the old adage goes that she didn't like her porridge. She said it was too hot, it was too cold, bitch didn't know what to choose. Anyway, point is, whenever I see that bear and I see him start shooting at Yang and she goes up and hits him, and I'm with somebody who has never seen the show before, I always go and scream, "The porridge was too hot, bitch!" Anyway, I just noticed that one dude in the background with the evil Mook crowd who isn't wearing the sunglasses. I'm ashamed of him. okay, going into like characterization of Yang here, you get a sense that she's like super duper party girl, and that does come out a bit in Volume 2. Volume 2 definitely matches characterization with all of them the best in terms of trailers, but for most of the series, she's been Big Sister and Power Bomb, so that's been interesting. I don't know, there was just something very special about these trailers. It was unique, and the show is undeniably a bit different now, more fantasy based. Still good, but it I won't without Monogame had a different way of doing characterization, and how can I say, it was definitely a little more a little jazz. I'll say jazzy. That's the best way I can state it with this stuff. I mean, he had a way of animating where he would mix in the action with the comedy with frenetic motion. I mean, everything was just so over the top and energetic at every single moment. Now I think it was kind of the theme in last season, but they've just kind of dramatically slowed down things to focus on story elements and drama. I mean, going back and looking at Volume 2 and Volume 3, I guess it actually kind of makes sense, but that they had to slow down for a bit. But I do have nostalgia. I do miss the quickness of the beginning of this show. Actually, in some ways, I almost recommend that these trailers, you either watch these trailers after you see Season 1, or sometimes, because you should definitely watch these trailers if you watch the show. They almost form a prologue to the show. But they give you just such a different tone, especially the yellow trailer with the insane jazz club fighting right here. Oh, that kick shit right there, that's... Alright. But yeah, you get actually just such a different tone of the series if you see the yellow trailer before you see the rest of the series and go into like schoolgirl Disney stuff for the first 12 to 16 episodes, that it just seems almost jarring. But then you get to Volume 2, and then it starts to make more sense, I guess, the tone here, and then Volume 3 turns it into, actually starts the narrative story. Like, Volumes 1 through 3 seem like the one big first act to me, and that's how I'm gonna split them out, because Volume 4 is definitely something different. Signaled by the costume change. Oh, okay. This part, good God, this is, like, that, when I watched this one with a friend of mine, we both joked it, like, she was bobbing and weaving. Sorry, that brought me back, that punch right there. Oh. One punch! Da 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 ba ba. Alright, but so,
it's a long story.
Leaving off on that, thank you guys for watching. It was a great ride going back and watching all these things, like kind of reminiscing about the start of this fantastic show we call RWBY now. And maybe I'll be doing this for the whole series. We'll see. And good luck, goodbye, and good night or good morning, depending on where you are in the world.